It's time for the show that comes at you hotter than a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. Welcome to Blazzzin Sportscast, your source for all things sports news, fantasy football, and trading cards. Now, here are your hosts, Mike Blazzzin Belliot and the Bearded Grinch.
Happy Friday, everyone. It seems like it's been much longer than a week, Chris. We said we were going to do some of these live shows. When are we going to start those? I can't go a week without this.
You know, school sessions have started. Kids are getting back into routines. Families getting back in routine. But, yeah, I need to get a little bit more than just 1 day a week. So we will get these underway. We've been getting a lot of emails and things sent. So those mailbag Mondays and the wax release Wednesdays will be coming at you relatively soon. So be on the lookout for that. I will say Blazzzin is certainly a description that is fitting right now. I don't know about you, man, but this has gotten insane. We are on like a 6-day streak of 95 plus degree weather. And it has just got me in the summer blues. I'm ready for my fall football seasons to come around here.
I had my first pumpkin cold foam cold brew from Dunkin' yesterday, and I didn't even want it because it's way too early. I usually don't hit those up till September, but it's been 100. It feels like 106 was the feels like temperature. I was like, I need something like you said to get me. I love summer. I'm not rushing it away. But 106 going into September is a little bit hot for me. I agree, man. Let's bring on the sweatshirt and shorts weather.
Maybe if we can just keep manifesting it, it's going to happen. But, you know, there is one thing that's always, bringing about the feeling of fall, and that is football. And we're just going to dive right into it. We've got some news here on the football front as the third preseason games are underway heading into this weekend. We've got some transactions. We've got some starters being named and some injuries. So let's just dive right into it. On the injury front, some big names coming out. Packers veteran wide receiver Devin Funchess out for the season with a hamstring. So it looks like maybe a little bit of Nostradamus on Rodgers' part to bring in Randall Cobb there, knowing something may happen. Probably happy with that addition there. Big news out of Jacksonville, Travis Etienne with the Liz Frank injury out for the season. So the rookie's not going to get a chance to show what he can do paired up with Trevor Lawrence down there. Good news is they do have James Robinson in a decent backfield, so that shouldn't affect them terribly, although I know they were anticipating some good things out of Etienne, so that's going to be postponed for a year. And then Lynn Bowden Jr., hamstring injury for the Dolphins wide receiver, out for this season as well. So another weapon for Tua there that's going to be taken out. Of those three, Mike, what are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to have the biggest impact there?
Well, I'll just say this isn't who I think has the impact, but man, Funchess, I wish he could just get a full season in. I've always had high hopes for him. He's fun to watch. Lynn Bowden just can't catch a break either, man. He got traded his rookie year, gives over to Miami, ready for a good start of the year. But the biggest impact is obviously Etienne. I mean, that Jags team is in rebuild mode. I just think it's so funny that Jags fans are like, oh man, there goes our season. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like you thought that was what your season was riding on, then you're really, really tainted on your view of what the season was going to be. They still have James Robinson. And as we're going to talk about who to buy low and sell high, man, people were like drafting James Robinson so low. And I'm like, even if Etienne was going to play, Robinson was still the number one there. So they still have this breakout stud running back. I still think the Jags are all right to show what they have in the build process, but it is a little upsetting. We're not going to get to see Etienne. I heard he was catching everything thrown to him. He was exciting to watch. The Jags are going to be on some marquee matchups this year with Lawrence. So I feel for Etienne, a young guy going in, but a good thing I like when these things happen at the beginning of the season. He gets the full year to recover, and it's just like being a redshirt freshman. You know, he's going to go right in the next year, and he's kind of like a rookie going in the next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Give him a chance to kind of watch the game, get the game flow, and be ready for next year. We also have some players on the move, most notably Sony Michel to the Rams for a 5th and 6th rounder. The Rams backfield just battered and bruised there, so great addition for them. And as always, getting value. You've got Belichick able to make some moves to benefit him. They've got a stacked backfield in New England, as they do every year. So I think this is a move that works out well for both of them. Baltimore Ravens giving up their 5th-round cornerback out of Ohio State, Shaun Wade, to the Patriots for a 5th and 7th rounder. Again, I think this is a move that benefits both teams. New England short on cornerbacks there, while the Ravens have a stacked DB room. One of the benefits for them is getting that 5th and 7th rounder. They're going to be able to trade a player that probably wasn't going to see the field a whole lot anyway. And really a one-dimensional DB, in my opinion, plays well in the slot, but outside of that didn't prove a whole lot. So win-win for both of them. And then Denzel Perryman, the linebacker from the Panthers, going to the Raiders for a 6th-round pick. So some movement happening here. As we start to look at roster cuts, there's probably going to be some additional pickups here in the next week or so. So interesting to see what happens in the transactions between now and the beginning of the season.
I heard that Sony Michel did not even know he was there was even a potential for him to be traded. He was completely caught off guard. It's got to be hard for a guy that was just kind of finding his place, dealt with some injuries his first couple of years. He was a rookie in 2018, I believe. So, I mean, we don't put that into account. Everyone's like, oh, these players, they're greedy for winning all this money and stuff. They also deal with these kind of things. It is a business on the NFL side and on the team side, and we don't always give players credit for that. That's kind of hard. I don't know if he has a family or not, but even if it's not family, friends, he's established his home in New England, and all of a sudden, hey, you're going to move across the country, living in a completely different time zone, play for a completely different group of people around you. It's part of the business, but to be caught off guard like that just seems to be the Belichick way. It's not about you, it's about the team. So you got to feel for those guys sometimes. Always
has been, always will be with him, but maybe a chance for him to get a fresh start. The Rams are one of those promising teams that's looking to have a breakout season.
Oh, and he's going over to be, real quick, he is going over to be the wide receiver 1. Part of the reason they brought him in, apparently Darrell Henderson, they love him. He's doing great, but he is going to be on a 15 carry workload count. So again, for fantasy purposes, Sony Michel moves up big time on the list to play. Again, split carries with Darrell, but Darrell's always, Henderson out there has always had injury issues, as has Michel, but kind of nice to know that they'll be sharing the carries. So maybe less injuries, more productivity. There's a lot to be said on quality over quantity, especially when it pertains to running backs.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. One of his key abilities is catching out of the backfield, so there's going to be an opportunity to open up that offense even more. And then we've got some QB news. So Teddy Bridgewater, in a bit of a surprise to some people with the way that Drew Lock was playing, has been named the official starter out there in Denver. I want to get your thoughts on that. And then looks like, as much as we can presume right now, that Jameis Winston has all but secured the starting spot there in New Orleans. Looks like Taysom Hill may play sort of that triple threat role that he played under Drew Brees. Well, it hasn't been named official. It's just sort of looking that way. Obviously, we know Sean Payton likes to keep things close to the chest, so we may not know until really close to the beginning of the season. But Bridgewater out there in Denver and looking like Winston in New Orleans. Thoughts on that?
I just picked Winston up in I dropped Carson Wentz. Actually, in the league we're in, man, the Dynasty Auction League. I got Wentz for like $1, but he was like my backup flyer since I have Rodgers. But dude, Winston looked sharp. There was an image circulating. It was like Winston in Tampa Bay, and it has him like with like blind man glasses on, and then it's like the next one is like he's Vision, and it's like that laser beam out of his eyes, and it's like Winston in New Orleans. So it's just crazy, man. He is a different guy. They're comparing it to the Tannehill resurgence. Tannehill got this fresh start. He's it's resurgence of his career. I'm hopeful for Winston. I've always been a big Winston fan, and you're going to hear his name pop up later when we talk about cards. But dude, I'm excited for him. I really hope it works out for him in New Orleans.
Yeah, he's going to have the chance. One of the interesting statistics is you always think of Drew Brees as, the arm and constantly throwing and his abilities there, but they were throwing out this statistic of like average air yards per throw. So like how far the actual ball is being thrown. New Orleans with Drew Brees last season, it was just over 6 yards per throw. With Jameis Winston, you're getting over 10 yards per throw. So opening the field a bit more, likes to go for the deep threat, maybe makes him a little bit more susceptible to the interceptions. We saw that 30 interception year that he did have, but going to stretch the field a bit more and something interesting to keep an eye on there.
I did want to say on the Bridgewater news too, they are starting Bridgewater, even though Locke had this great season. Somehow, I don't know how, but I got into some Denver fan group where it popped up as a possible group I might like to join. And I read an interesting take on it. I don't know if it was from the beat writers or what, but the reason that they named Bridgewater the starter over Locke is they know if Locke goes in there and fails, his time in Denver is over. There's more there's more hope that if Bridgewater starts and does well, it's like a win-win situation. If Bridgewater starts and does well, great, they have a great season. If he doesn't and he goes down, people will be more accepting of Locke's, shortcomings. If he comes in and doesn't do as great, he'll have less to live up to if Bridgewater's failing. So it's kind of a preventative measure to not lose Locke so quickly after he was drafted in 2019. If he goes out there and fails and then his time's over. So I think it's a strategical insertion. I think they're kind of in that situation where they're 1A and 1B. So go with the safer option for the team's future. And I think it's a smart decision, but that doesn't mean give up on Locke. We'll talk more about him later as well as it pertains to cards.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I hadn't heard that. Well, that's kind of it in the quick round the world with the NFL. But as you know here and how we do on this show, the news just doesn't stop with sports. We like to talk about the cards. So some news in the card market that I know you're going to touch on here, Mike. Just a little bit more detail here on the Fanatics deal and what to expect with that, and then some new product releases. So what do we got coming out?
Yeah, the Topps deal is a little sketchy because apparently there's a split in the years. It's 23 with the league, 26 with the Players Association. There's this 3-year window. We don't know what the card market and for Topps is going to look like. But it seems like for the NFL Players Association and the NBA Players Association and the league, signing deals at 2026. So it's a 20-year deal. So I think there's a lot in the works there. I'm done speculating about it. I've had thousands of minutes of conversation with people about this, and it's, again, all purely speculation. There's been no more details other than the deal starts in 2026. It's a 20-year deal, which means, guess what? We have another 4.5, 5 years of Panini cards, unless something happens, and concrete evidence. I'm pretty much done talking about it. We have a lot of time to enjoy cards. Heck, I said, man, we're living the card market year by year as it is. No one expected it to continue to go up pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and it continues to stay hot and on the rise. Let's just enjoy it while we have it. You can enjoy your speculation, enjoy your hot takes, but until we get more concrete evidence, we're probably going to stay away from touching on it because to me, it's becoming more of a waste of time to speculate.
Yeah, well, you know what they say about assumptions, and that's all we have to go off of right now. So you said 1 year at a time. Shoot, with the card market now, it's almost 1 day at a time. So let's just do that, take it 1 day at a time and see what happens. So more is going to come out with that, but again, no reason to speculate there. We do have some new releases that have recently come out and a few things on the horizon, although we're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown, and I want you to address that a little bit on our new releases as far as product is concerned.
So a lot of products getting pushed back. There's a lot of TBD now dates for baseball. So I'm not going to get into too much of those, but all optic products have been getting pushed. And my understanding is the production of it is being slowed up by the availability of the optic paper that they make. Our favorite product, optic, that chrome style that even Topps puts out. But that optic paper is, I guess they're having trouble getting it. So they keep pushing these products back. Now optic is pushed. Let me see here. Optic basketball is pushed to the 17th of September. And then the releases for basketball was the September for Optic B-Ball, and then 10-1 is Spectra Baseball. WNBA Prism comes out on the 8th of September, and then Obsidian Basketball this year comes out on the 29th of September. So you're looking at September limited releases. August brought 40 different releases plus across the board. So I think what's happening here, part of the reason things are getting pushed in September slow, and we've seen this happen before. I don't know if this is plotted by Panini or it's maybe a blend of the availability of labor and supplies and materials, but I think they're spreading it out because you can see as all these products come out, the available money starts to slim. Sales slow down, prices go down, people aren't filling breaks, people aren't buying hobby boxes as much. And I think by maybe pushing off some of these products, it gives everyone time to recover, organize, and do that, which I think is really, really good for the hobby. We are starting the NFL season on the 12th of September, I believe, the Thursday game playing on the 9th or the 10th or whatever. And we have literally the first 3 weeks of football, 3 football releases.
Wow.
On the 3rd of September, we have Panini Black, which looks gorgeous. If you did not see the mock-ups for that, check it out. On the 8th of September, unless it gets pushed, we have Don Russ football. And that is it. Oh, I'm wrong. Oh, no, that's it. That's all we got.
Wow.
I think Leaf Trinity is mixed in there on the 3rd of September. But again, for the first 3 weeks of football, they all come out prior to the week 1 of football, and then weeks 1, 2, and 3 of football, no releases. So we're going to get to dabble in some of the products that are already out unless something gets moved up. But then it hits us again hard in October 6th, National Treasures Collegiate. 10-6 is also Origins. I imagine one of those is going to get pushed up or back because they don't generally do 2 releases on the same day. And then on the 22nd is Absolute Football. So again, some of these products we all easily forget about. Absolute is something that always, until it comes out, you kind of forget about. But
yeah, the coveted kabooms are in there, so that's what everybody's on the lookout for.
Oh yeah, and the price is reflecting it this year at a pre-sale price of between $500 and $550 for a box of Absolute. So wow. The hobby's not getting cheaper right now, but who knows? I mean, these are all, and we wanted to just go over this, and I think it's a great time to we're going to talk about this at the end, and as you prepare to buy and sell, great time to get your collection organized, recoup some funds. Don't go overspending on stuff you don't necessarily want just because we're waiting on releases. Get excited about some of those releases, but September, a little bit slower month, especially as it pertains to the football front.
So one of the things that you can do, and where we're going to kind of transition into next, is if there isn't product necessarily for you to go out and buy, a lot of people will take that opportunity to use those funds and grade some of those cards that they've been sitting on that they've wanted to send in. So wanted to touch on just an interesting point. It was something I came across earlier this morning as I was kind of looking through Facebook into some of the card forums. But right now, as the grading market sits, from a value perspective, and when I say value perspective, I'm talking anything $50 a card or less, there's really only 2 options that you can submit with right now. So we're looking at HGA and we're looking at SGC. Other than that, Beckett's still open, PSA still open, but if you're going to do that, you're going to pay a premium. We're talking $200 plus per card in order to send there. So when we're looking at HGA and SGC, I just came across this article that someone had put out there. This isn't meant to promote, one over the other. This is just food for thought, something that I want to elicit some conversation around and just get opinions on. But this individual went and took similar cards graded through HGA and SGC and put their final sales value on there. And to be honest with you, was pretty surprised at the result. I know a lot of people are talking about SGC, the tuxedo cards, a place where they're putting a lot of money. You hear mixed reactions, towards that. You hear mixed reactions towards HGA because everybody has their preface and what they really like to do. But let me go ahead and set this up for you. So just a few of the cards that they put out there. The first one was a Luka Doncic rookie base prism. HGA 9.5 versus an SGC 9.5. The HGA cost $20 to grade, sold for $510. The SGC cost $30 to grade, and the average sale was around $375. So we're talking a difference of about $125 in value there towards HGA. Next up was a 2009-2010 Prestige Draft Picks rookie Steph Curry, numbered to $999. The HGA sold for $800. The SGC sold for $549. So a pretty stark difference there, over $200. Just throw out one more example. This was a 2020 Panini Select Joe Burrow orange field level die cut. The HGA sold for $485 versus the SGC sales similar. And this was an SGC 10. So we're talking an HGA 9.5 versus an SGC 10 sold for $275. So you're talking a difference there of $200 as well. So really interesting and surprising. It looks like HGA is starting to get a foothold there as far as values are concerned. What's your thoughts, opinions when you first hear that?
I mean, right now we're comparing the companies that are, I know we didn't mention much about PSA, but we're comparing the companies that are accepting your cards right now for value-based cards. So you have to look at that. I know it's easy to say, well, what's PSA sell for? Right now, you can't submit in this range of $35. To me, I've said it many times, I love the look of the HGA labels to begin with. And it seems like even if they're getting equal prices, I still want to go HGA. I think it's an up and coming company. There's been other looks that have compared even the HGA cards to PSA sales, and they're starting to get above there a little bit. I just think you got to go with what you like between these two. I'm still not a fan of paying the price for PSA. The word is when they open back up, it's going to be around $40 to $50 for the value-based grading compared to the $25 for HGA, $35 for SGC. Chris, you kind of mentioned about that a little bit. They're doing that to deter people from grading cheap cards. Do you think this all changes when PSA opens back up?
I'm curious to see at what levels they open up, because even still, I don't think we're ever going to go back to the $20 per card bulk submission prices with PSA. I just don't ever see that happening. I think for two reasons. Number one, they see that, people are still continuing to submit even at these higher levels. So why are they going to go ahead and shoot themselves in the foot and offer, a value proposition when they know that they're going to still be able to make money? And I think they maybe want to learn from their mistakes and not get in the same situation they were before, where you're having this backlog of millions of cards. So, I think PSA, when they do open up, if they drop down to a reasonable price, $50 per card type thing, and it's kind of weird to say that that's reasonable, because your card has to be valued, significantly higher to make it worthwhile to even send in. But I do think you're going to start to see, more action there. I think, as we continue to look at these pop counts and when these cards start to circulate and we see, and dive in a little bit more on what these pop counts are, that's really going to, differentiate, which cards get sold and who uses who. Obviously, a newer company like an HGA, the pop counts are going to be significantly lower than something with a PSA. But, when you start comparing the number of 10s versus the number of 9s, I think it's going to get really interesting. The thing I've always said is, competition is a good thing. If you don't believe that, then you're just, that's business 101. So go back and do a little bit of research on that. And I also think that there's just enough room out there for everybody to succeed. Everybody's got preferences. You like something different than what I like. So does the next. There's people that love the tuxedo look of the SGC. It's clean, minimalistic. I'm not a big fan of it. I like art. I like splashy. I like creativity. I like the custom availability that you have with something like, an HGA. I personally just don't like the color gold. I don't wear gold jewelry. I don't like, I like silver. I like platinum. So to me, the gold, on a BGS, I just don't like the look of it. It's just not a personal preference. So, everybody's going to have something. I think there's room for everybody to be able to be successful. And I think people just have to be a little bit more understanding and a little bit more accepting.
And I think real quick on this, one last note for me is that, not every card deserves the same grading company. I get if you have a $5,000 card, why you want to go to PSA or to Beckett. I absolutely get that. And I can't argue that. And I don't have an issue with you paying the $200 fee for a card like that. But the general population does not have, the guys, we're really preaching this to, it does not have $5,000 cards lying around. If you get a big card, speak to the people who deal with big cards the most and look at that, or be patient on it. Wait to see more larger cards get graded with HGA, or go look if any have and look at it that way. But I'm talking about your common, like not your common cards, but those mid-range cards where you can, you can't even afford, it may not be worth $200. And then, so what I say to that, if you're grading also on speculation, timing is key. You want to get your cards back in your hands so you can get them on the market faster. HGA and SGC are guaranteed to get you, even if it's a 30-day and it comes back in 45 or 60, that's a lot faster than anyone's getting back from PSA. I know people are saying, hey, now we're looking at, maybe it was supposed to be like July, then it got pushed to October. Now we're looking at March of 2022. But when PSA opens back up, I know for a fact there are guys with 300, 500 count top loader boxes waiting to ship in for grading from submission groups, from personal collections. Now think about that, extrapolate it out to how many PSA is going to get in at that value base. There's no way they're just all of a sudden going to be able to pump those out and get them back in the 30-day window. They're just have people, chomping at the bit to get those back in. So be cautious on that as well. So when it comes to timing, don't, everyone that's out there right now bashing HGA, you may need them. Be careful how quick you bite the hand that may need to feed you. It's best to keep your mouth shut. If you don't like it, see what happens. But by breaking down a company that you may have to use later, we've seen it. People who tweet things out and 5 years later down the road, they change their stance. And they're like, wait a minute, look what you said 5 years ago. The internet remembers everything. Be very, very careful on how you bash a company you may like or need down the road. All right. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, or potentially is going to hold the only course of food you need.
Wow. Awesome points. Ones that I didn't really, think about. Really good just for those that are getting into it and starting. And that's the other thing too that I talk about quite a bit that kind of frustrates me, and sometimes I have to bite my tongue, but we all have opinions. They say opinions are like everybody has one and they all stink, right? So what I don't get is, if you're on a forum for a PSA page or an SGC page or an HGA page, just step back and not have the need to go on and just bash. If you've got your preference and you like what you like, that's fine. Like what you like and shop with what you shop and sell with what you want to sell. But no need for all the negativity in the market right now. Just kind of, take a step back, zip your mouth. And to your point, you never know when you might need that company one day in the near future. You did mention something that I think is a good transition to kind of where we're heading. And that was, for speculation, if you're looking to flip things, one of the things that we wanted to address today is Mike and I constantly get, emails, messages on Facebook with people just asking questions. Number one, the assumption is that we know way more than we do. So we appreciate that nod of encouragement, but we are not the end all be all on many of these topics. We are just two guys with opinions. So take that for what it is. But oftentimes, and the first one I wanted to address is we will get messages or emails from people with a specific card saying, hey, what do you think? Should I buy this, Josh Allen rookie card right now? Hey, should I buy this player or that player? And really just asking our opinions on players that they're either trying to invest in, whether it be short or long term or just for speculation. And so I wanted to kind of talk through that process a little bit. There are specific times when it's better to buy and to sell. These are generalities versus just, kind of hardcore facts. But we'll talk through a little bit of those. But the first thing I will say in addressing that is if you don't know about the sport and or the player, I would refrain from immediately purchasing. I would always do my homework, do my research. I know nothing about Pokemon. Pokemon people can make a ton of money flipping stuff, but I'm not going to go out and start investing money into something I don't know. If I'm interested in it, I'm going to talk to people in forums. Like Mike said, I'm going to go on YouTube and watch videos. I'm going to do my research, do my homework, trying to find out who are some of the key cards to go after, long-term, short-term holds. Just don't speculate. Go after players in sports that you know and you like, because that way, if it doesn't pan out, you know that you're going to have something that you at least like in the end. So that's kind of rule number one. Rule number two, and this is just kind of one of the things that we'll get into and get your opinion on here, Mike, is there are definitely times and generalities when it comes to buying and selling. So typically from just a really broad spectrum, it's preseason. For a sport, it's the time to buy, sell during, not after. So what does that mean? So right now we're in the fall, coming into September, October timeframe. You start to see training camps for basketball will start up. We're in the beginning of football season. Baseball starting to wind down as we get towards the playoffs. So really in early fall, September time, this is the time when you want to try to finish buying off any of those basketball cards that you may have had your eye on, because the prices are going to start to increase as the season starts. So now it's really sort of the tail end to start buying that. Hockey the same way, kind of the tail end to start buying those. And then your sell portion is going to be your baseball. When teams start to get hot, when players get hot, when they start going towards the playoffs, now it's the time to sell. You can sell football as well on speculation, specifically those players that may play well. And as they come out of the gates and start to win 2, 3, 4 games, it's a great time if you're trying to move those players to move them. And then waiting until after the season, you're going to be too far gone to try to make anything if your goal is from an investment perspective. What are your just kind of initial thoughts on that, Mike?
I mean, timing is everything in every market, right? Like you have to be able to time the market correctly. That's what separates the people who are successful in all markets against the people who struggle to find that long-term success. So it's a little bit, it's a lot of preparation mixed with a little bit of luck and a whole bunch of timing. Knowing when to buy and sell. I think you're giving great points as seasons matter. We talked about it in our perception versus reality last episode. The perception is, I got to go get this card. This player is hot. In reality, that's the worst time to buy that player. We're looking at buying the all season, maybe not even seasonally. You're looking at the general seasons. And I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but, ETN just got injured. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. Don't buy it right now because people are like, it's still fresh in their minds. They're still a little frustrated about it. Wait till about like halfway through the season when other guys are stepping up. Maybe James Robinson's doing well. Looks like he's going to really solidify his place at number 1. Then go see if you can find some deals on ETN, right? You got to time the market, not just seasonally like Chris is talking about, but it's the worst time to do it is right after a guy throws for 2 touchdowns and you're like, I got to go get some Mac Jones. No. Don't go buy a guy right before he or right after he gets a big game. Do it like looking out his schedule. Hey, he has a stretch of 3 really, really good like matchups coming up where he can be successful. I'm going to go buy this guy now. Don't wait till like 3 days before. Guys are starting to realize that. Don't wait till the day on Sunday and you go buy eBay and then get pissed at the eBay seller because he realized he had a card listed for $4.99 and the guy just threw 2 touchdowns on Sunday. And you're like, I just snagged it for $4.99. That guy is going to cancel his sale. And if you get mad about it, that's on you. You can't really, would you sell it? everyone that gets mad about it are the same people that would do the same thing that eBay seller did and canceled that sale. You know, we see it every football Sunday where a guy has a big game, all the cards sell out, and then half the sales get canceled and everyone pisses and moans about it. So to your point, Chris, I know I'm a little off as far as you talking about seasonally purchasing, but it's all about timing. You know, you can look at the season purchases and those things that are cyclical year in and year out, or the habits that we see in season, you know, looking ahead of schedules, finding trends in players. You know, I'm going to talk about this in our Who to Buy Now, but look at sleepers in fantasy before the season gets started. If you're big on a player as a sleeper, buy him now low. And I'm going to give you a few of those examples later at the end of the show, but buy him low now. Don't wait until he has a couple good games, you know, and a lot of those guys, those sleepers are low investments now. You're taking a much shorter risk on it than you are waiting until Mac Jones prices are comparable to Trevor Lawrence. You know, Mac Jones, right. He hasn't played a game and he may not be the starter. Don't buy now. That's the wrong time. You timed it wrong.
Yeah, your point's spot on, and I want to throw out an example. And now, not saying that he's affordable by any means, but just to give you an example of sort of the roller coaster from a pricing perspective. If you look at a player like a Patrick Mahomes, obviously 2017 was the ideal time. You will never buy his cards lower than you were able to get them in 2017. No one knew what to expect out of him. You had no idea what he was going to turn into. He comes out in 2018, has an MVP season, wins the Super Bowl in 2019. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is to Mike's point, is don't wait for that player to have that huge game before you go to purchase. Same thing when you're selling. When you looked at the 2019 football season, leading up into the season, the beginning, prices started to rise on Mahomes. They started to creep up. He started to play well. They got higher and higher. It's like that roller coaster where you have, you know, when you're going up that big hill, it kind of just every 10 feet, it kind of resets and bounces back and resets and bounces back until you hit the crest. Well, all the way up to the playoffs is when that price started to increase slowly. Then he wins his first playoff game. The ideal time was to sell then. What happened is he made it to the Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl. People waited until after he won the Super Bowl thinking that it was going to be the ideal time to sell. Well, guess what? As soon as the Super Bowl was over, his card prices started to cool off just a little bit. I'm not saying they dropped. I mean, he's still super high, but they started to cool off a little bit. The ideal time is that lead up. It's the anticipation of what's going to happen. If you wait until after the game, then it's foregone. It's an afterthought unless you're a diehard Kansas City fan. People, once the Super Bowl is over, people start looking to the next season or the next sport. So just try to anticipate a little bit better.
Yeah, and Chris, I love that you brought that up. I was kind of hoping we didn't neglect to talk about that. Same thing happened with LeBron. After LeBron won the championship during the pandemic, his card started to decline. People are like, wait, I was holding these for that moment. It happened with Kobe in the Hall of Fame. You know, they were buying on the speculation that for the Hall of Fame, he gets in and like cards didn't go up. They're like, wait a minute, I bought this on this. Well, yeah, you bought on the speculation of that happening. They didn't necessarily drop, but they didn't just go anywhere. You know, they stayed the same. It's always crazy to me because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't necessarily agree with this trend, but going in the NFL playoffs, right? There's never bigger hype. You know, even if your team's not in it, you're super pumped for the NFL playoffs. But yet card sales tend to dip a little bit, not with the guys in the playoffs, but everyone else, because out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. You know, they know that it's going to be another year, calendar year before those guys get a shot at playing in those games. So, you know, those players tend to dip. And like Chris just said, then that's the time to sell those playoff players. And you can see it with Josh Allen, even leading up to that game when they played the Chiefs in that. And that day, the prices, I think people knew like, hey, that's not likely the Bills are going to win this game. And so like they kept going up. And even before that game, you saw them kind of taper down a little bit because people were like, hey, I'm going to, and even if they didn't, people were willing to sell off a little bit cheaper because they knew what was about to come. We all knew that the Chiefs was a long shot for us to win. As a Bills fan, I knew that too. So again, it goes back to that timing. And the more educated you are on those trends and the better you can get at timing, don't be greedy. Also, don't be greedy because you think something magical is going to happen. If you are sitting on a card at a really low buy price and you're like, I can get more out of it. Stop squeezing every penny out of it. If you're really looking to get money out of it, be happy to sell. You know, in your head, would I have been happy to get this value for it 3 months ago? Then be ecstatic to get it for it now. You know what I mean? Don't get greedy. It will kill you if you're trying to make money. Yeah.
The other thing to your point that is a great comparison is looking ahead, you know, and they say any given Sunday because that's really true. On any given Sunday, any team can beat any team. It's just the nature of the sport. It can happen. But let's say we're talking like NFC playoffs, right? And let's say something happens and like San Francisco gets really hot. Trey Lance comes in, takes over for Garoppolo towards the end of the season. They start playing. They sneak into the playoffs, maybe even win their division, and they're in the playoffs. And let's say they're going to play Tampa Bay in the first round. The likelihood of them maybe beating a Tampa Bay may be a little bit lower, than other teams. So people are waiting to hold those cards. If your goal is to sell and to turn profit, I mean, we're not talking if you're trying to, long-term invest or if it's a PC player of yours, but if you're just looking for the flips and the short-term, investment opportunities, if you wait until after that game with the hopes that maybe they'll get lucky enough to win, the chances are not in your favor. I mean, you've got to look at percentages and you've got to look at opportunities. The chances are that they're not going to win that game. So if they end up losing, well, then those cards start to cool off. So to your point, it's looking ahead. What are the realistic possibilities that, the outcomes will fall into your favor where a player is going to be able to excel? So it's not just what they're doing now, is what is the future opportunity for them to excel? And if it's something where it looks like they're not going to really have a great opportunity, then maybe it's a time. Basketball, same example I'll give to you. Memphis Grizzlies, John Morant, he turned it on in the playoffs, started playing really well. Was the likelihood that they were going to win an NBA championship probably slim to none? So individuals that kept holding and seeing if they could get further in the rounds, they ended up, possibly losing an opportunity to make some money. Once they got into the playoffs, that was the first step for them to try to, grab peak value there. And then after they won a couple games, grab some value. But to think that you're going to hold it long-term and they were going to be the NBA champions was probably a little foolish. So those are just two, kind of out of the box examples, but something to think about.
Yep. Great points, man.
So the other thing we get all the time is not just what about this player? Is this the person I should buy? The other thing that we get quite often is, hey, I've got this card, whether it be a 101, whether it be just a, really rare version, maybe a die cut, a super short print. Can you help me with the value on this card? Can you help tell me what this card is worth? And I don't think people really understand that, while eBay is the largest marketplace, it certainly isn't the end all be all for where you can find values on cards and pricing. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of talk through a little bit of, if you have this card and you're looking for values, we should be a community where we're willing to help people. Unfortunately, there's trolls everywhere. So if you go to Facebook and you put a card out and say, hey, what's this worth? You're probably going to get beat up a little bit by some immature people that feel the need to just bash you. So do a little bit of research on your own. So there's tools out there. So you can go on eBay, you can do completed sold sales, and most of the time you're going to be able to find what that card sold for, particularly on auction is where you're going to see the exact price. The problem that you'll run into is if it was a buy it now opportunity where the seller put a price out there and gives you the chance to buy it, or a best offer, eBay is not going to show you the best offer that was taken. So you're going to have to use a little bit of resources there. There's two in particular that I use. One is 130point.com. The other is Card Snoop. You can go into either of those. You can input the description of the card, and it should show you the exact dollar amount that card sold for, what that best offer was. So a good opportunity there to see specifically what the card was. Now, if you're talking about really specific cards like one-on-ones or things that may not have comps, what Mike and I were talking about earlier and what we want to make really clear to you is if you're going to try to find something comparable, you're going to have to take into consideration not just the player, not just the type of card, but the specific brand of card. And what I mean by that is a 1-of-1 out of Donruss is not equivalent to a 1-of-1 out of Flawless or National Treasures. You're going to have to do that. People will try to do that on both ends, either to snag a deal or to overvalue their cards, but you have to really use comparable. So if you have a 1-of-1 out of Flawless and you're trying to find a value on it, look at their, sales from National Treasure 1-of-1s of that player that are similar. Look at 1-of-1s from Impeccable or Immaculate. That's going to give you a better understanding than going and looking at Donruss or Score.
Absolutely. And again, there are great sites out there. We talked about in our perception versus reality, eBay is not necessarily the only comp that you can use to comp cards, but it is probably the most reliable right now until we get somebody that's going to go through and do the legwork to compare what things are selling for on Facebook and stuff. And you can do the same thing. The best thing to do though, is just talk to people, go see, like search for cards that are for sale on eBay and Facebook. Like Chris just said, filter to to sold cards, I always like to filter to auctions because auctions give you a little bit more of a reliable sell point. I know that even people who say, oh, I do buy it now. Well, a lot of new guys, and if you're new out there, you can't go off. And I know a lot of us know this, but if it says $2.99 crossed out, best offer accepted, that could mean it sold for $60. You have to be very careful of that. So that can be very deceiving. I've had friends that got really excited. Hey, I have this, Shaq rookie. It says it sold for $9,000, best offer accepted. Well, here, let me show you what it sold for. It was for like $112. So like, oh, I thought I had a $9,000 card. That can be really upsetting if you're new to the hobby. So the best thing to do is filter to auctions, see if any sold recently. If they haven't, then you can use sites like 130 Point to discover what the buy it now cards did sell for. And like Chris said, comparing other cards is a good way to do it too, not just for one of ones, but across the board. Find a similar set. If you have a National Treasures, maybe look up Immaculate, Flawless, Impeccable, the high-end brands. If you have a Prism, look up your Phoenix, Optic, brands. If you have a Don Russ, you look at more like, towards the early brands. I'm trying to think of stuff right now, but like Certified, XR, things like that tailor around that $350, $400 box range now. It's so hard, Chris, to show those comparisons because the sealed wax price has changed dramatically. So trying to compare those products over the last couple years has really been crazy. But yeah, and like Chris said, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Chris is a phenomenal resource. The Bearded Grinch here is a phenomenal resource. He does the legwork as far as open cards and graded cards and raw cards go for. So that's what we're here to help. If you're new in the hobby, reach out to us, see if we can help you learn how to do that on your own.
Yep, and Mike can chime in on all the wax. I mean, he's going to be your best source for wax pricing and things of that nature if you're looking to pick up some of that and sit on it like a lot of people are. The last kind of point that we wanted to talk about, so we've got people that are asking, what about this player? What about this value? So let's combine them all and just talk about who are those individual sports players that you, Mike, and myself now are kind of looking at from a buy-sell perspective? Where are we kind of putting our money where our mouth is and looking at? So who are some of those players that right now you're either into buying and or selling?
Well, Chris, I'm going to let you take the lead on your players because I'm always been so let me real quick. There's the buy low, sell high mentality. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy low and sit on until it's high and ask for top dollar, even in trade. Sometimes it's buy low, wait till they get high, and then be willing to trade or sell that at a little bit lower cost in order to then reinvest in more low players. You don't have to sell it for max dollar. Again, don't squeeze every penny out of it. But I like guys that have a low floor, but also have a mid ceiling. What I mean is guys you can buy super cheap. They might not be Patrick Mahomes and Lamar and Josh Allen prices at the end, but your window between low floor and the ceiling is a very, very nice range, but you're not going to break the bank. And then there's guys like, Trevor Lawrence. Right now, your floor is super high and your ceiling may be high, but the window between your floor and your ceiling is so minimal, so small that it's a super big risk. But I want to hear yours, Chris, before I go any further with that to see what your floor looks like and what your ceiling looks like.
Yeah, so I'm a little outside of the box on mine, so I'm not sure I'm going to give you a great comparison because I'm going a little bit off of the normal, NBA. I am talking a little NBA, but I don't have any NFL on here. And the reason why is outside of my personal PC stuff, which I get ragged on for all the time. As everyone knows, I'm a diehard Ravens guy. I do still think that Lamar, I think Josh Allen and even Baker at this point may be undervalued. So I think those are players that you can still scoop up before the season starts. But I'm going to start with soccer. And this is one of those things, I talked about it earlier in the show. I didn't know a ton. I've watched some World Cup soccer. I went to a college where we didn't have a football team, and so our homecoming game was soccer. So I was around soccer a little bit more. But soccer is one of those sports that has a worldwide audience. You've got a huge buying pool of it, and it's really coming to the forefront now, even more so than it was. You've had diehard collectors that have been out there forever. But with the Olympics finishing up and now coming into the World Cup here shortly, there's a lot of buzz around it. And so I'm looking into the world of soccer. For me specifically, we've got huge players that have been on the move recently. Messi just signing with a new team out of France. So there's some spotlight on his cards, an opportunity to pick some of them up. He's obviously considered one of the GOATs of the sport. So if you're not familiar with soccer, he's on the level of Michael Jordan, Tom Brady in that sport. Then you've got Ronaldo, who is, kind of like the Aaron Rodgers of soccer, where he's just, a staple household name, producer. He's also moving teams. And then another young up-and-comer, his name is Mbappe, and he has just been signed by Real Madrid, who is one of the most popular soccer teams out there from a fan perspective. So those are some individuals that I'm looking at trying to invest some money in. And the last one is Christian Pulisic, and he is an American who will be playing on the U.S. Soccer team. And as soccer becomes, more accepted into the U.S. market, he's going to be a name that if they go out there and are able to make, some kind of splash in the World Cup, you're going to see his values rise significantly. I'm not saying go out and jump on these players. Do your research, do your homework. Again, it's got to be something that you're knowledgeable about or that you're passionate about, or else it makes no sense. The second thing that I'm looking at right now is basketball. Talked about it. This is kind of the tail end for the low buy on basketball before training camps start up. But if you wanted to jump on those players like your Jaws, your Zions, and your Lucas, not that you're going to get them cheap, but you're going to get them cheaper now than you are going to when the season starts. Those are some players to kind of watch out for and pick up. I know a lot of the card shows I've been to, Zion is a name that's been thrown out there a lot with people looking for him. And then lastly, I'm going UFC. UFC has gained a lot of popularity here recently. We've got a local guy, Matt Schnell, that is friends of the show, that, kind of keeps us involved with that. But it's gaining popularity, and one of the things that I'm going after is the first autos of players. So whether it be the old Topps Chrome or the new Select or Panini Prism products that are out there, the first auto variations for any of these fighters are what I'm going after, grading them and holding them for long term.
I love that you brought in Schnell, because the one thing you said at the beginning of the show is don't invest in sports or cards that you don't know a lot about, or at least do your research first. You talk a lot of soccer, a lot of basketball. I don't truly have investments in those because my first love, my always love is going to be football cards and football, the sport of football. But I have a special place for Schnell, man. And I try to get him, but he keeps buying up his own cards, man. It's hard to get Schnell cards. He keeps buying them up. Big shout out to Matt Schnell, who was on the show. Chris, what I love about you and I doing the show together is that, like we said a couple minutes ago, you're the raw and graded and single sales. I'm more of the wax, the breaking perspective. And it's a nice 1-2 punch. And not only in that fact is I feel like I hold a lot of the football knowledge, not that you don't have so much of that as well, but I have very little of the basketball and the soccer and the racing and the UFC, and you bring so much of that. So I'm glad we get to do this together, and great takes on that. Are you good for me to share my takes now?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear because I got to take some notes.
I was just going to say, we should preface this at the beginning of a show like this. Like, have a pen and paper ready. You can always go back and listen, but snag it, write these down, hold us accountable. Jot the date down in a little notebook and go back and be like, hey, a-holes, like, you told me to buy this guy and he sucks now. Or call us out like, hey, I heard you say buy Tyler Heineke at the beginning of the season for the pennies on the dollar, and I just sold one for $80, and it's not a ton of money, but I only spent $17 on it. So you got to look at marginal growth, and Dogecoin kind of brought this out. People are like, oh yes, it just went from 13 to 12, like 22 cents. Well, okay, that's only like 9 cents or whatever. But if you bought 1,000 shares of it or 10,000 shares of it, marginal growth, it's not just total dollar. You're looking at marginal growth, that percentage. So I'm going to give you some. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, I want to interrupt you before you go down your list, because I don't want what you just said to go over the heads or in and out of the ears of people, because I think it's so valuable. It doesn't have to be $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 card. Go to your $5, $1 bins at card shows. If you get a $3 card and sell it for $9, you have tripled your investment. Just put it into perspective to what Mike's saying. You've got to look at percentages, not dollars. You have tripled your investment. Where else can you go in the period of 10 minutes, triple your investment? So look at it as percentages, not necessarily dollars.
Absolutely. And it's funny because everyone thinks you have to just get rookies, and they're great. Rookie inks are good, but parallels are good. And they don't have to be the biggest guys along the way. So I'm going to give you a few guys right now who I think have a very low floor. They're cheap to buy. You don't have to break the bank to invest. Their ceiling's not super high, but their marginal growth is huge. Like Chris was just saying, you could triple, quadruple, even 10 times your investment based on some of these opportunities. And like I said, the first one's Tyler Heineke. Listen, I'm a huge Ryan Fitzpatrick fan, but you saw what Heineke did in his time there near the end of the season. My brother just said to me the other day, hey, whatever happened to Heineke? I'm like, oh, he's still there. And so I always look at fantasy news going into the season and fantasy sleepers and relate it to card investment opportunity. Again, these are guys that may not pan out, but you don't have to invest a lot. It's a late round draft in fantasy or a really low auction price, and it correlates with cards. For example, Tyler Heineke autos are going for like his Prism, red Prism from 2015. He was on the Vikings initially, just sold for $6.95. His red Prism short print plus $1.95 $49 shipping. You're into that card under $10. Let's just say he goes in, Fitzpatrick, not playing well, gets hurt, whatever. I mean, there's guys there ready to receive in Washington. Terry McLaurin's supposed to have a massive breakout year, which is another guy you might want to grab. But dude, just grab a couple, take $50, take $100. Maybe you buy like one high-end one. His Contenders one just sold for $22. His National Treasures just sold for $71. If you're looking at a little bit of a riskier investment, again, I don't always recommend buying those higher end cards on those guys because you're taking a long shot. You're playing those penny stocks. But depending on the risk you want to take, the National Treasures are going to like really look pretty if you do hit right on that. But you'll still do all right on tripling or quadrupling your investment. If you can grab a card for $6, he goes out there and plays 3 games, really good games in a row. That card's going to go $40, $50 easy. You're talking almost 10 times your investment. And now these holds true for these next couple guys. Calvin Ridley is another guy who I think is going to have a great fantasy season. His Immaculate Rookie out of 99 RPA just sold for $89. His Panini 1 RPA on card just sold for $152. His Rookie of the Year on card Contenders out of 49 just sold for $50. His Panini autograph out of 20 just sold for $37. So you have a wide range of quality. I'm giving you the range from like his lower end brands to his higher end brands. You can invest as low as $30 or as high as $175 on that player. He has a little bit more of a risk to him, but I think he has a lot more breakout potential as well. As he's going to be that wide receiver one there. Some 2 rookies I'm looking at now. Again, they were guys who have been in the league since 15 and 18. Here's some rookies. Jarrett Patterson looks awesome in the preseason, running back for another one for the Washington Redskins. His rookie cards, you ready for this? Now, he doesn't have a lot of NFL stuff out right here. His ultimate draft card just sold for $1.99 out of 99.
Wow.
Again, a lot of it's Leaf stuff. $2.90 for his XRC Pink out of 20. Again, these are penny stocks. What I'm telling you here is that you can buy these cards and you have a couple cool guys you can sell to a PC guy probably for what you paid for him down the road. But if he comes out and has 6 touchdowns in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, those cards are going to be $15, $20 cards floor. Now think about that. You paid $4 for it and you just sold it for 20. You 5 times your investment there on each card. Again, it's only $20. Yeah, but you can buy 15 or 20 of them. You don't have, take $30, $40, buy 5 or 6 of them. And if it doesn't hit, you're $50 in. We waste $50 all the time on stuff, right? You can't buy a pack of cards for $50.
No, you can't.
5 autographs for $50. I love that method right there. Here's one. Amon-Ra St. Brown. His RPAs, $15.50. Autographs, $10. Best offer accepted for like $12. $12.79 for 1 out of 30. His Immaculate RPA, collegiate RPA, $41. Again, a lot of college uniform stuff, but we don't have a lot of pro stuff out. You want pro? Gold Standard, rookie patch auto out of 149, free shipping, $27 out the door plus tax. I mean, right there is a card. I would have seen that. That's an auction one right there. Had 8 bids on it. Why not? Gold Standard $500 a box. First off the line's $900 a box for Gold Standard. You don't have to buy the lines in a break for $27 on a box of that. You can go get his card. Again, when you buy them in a break, you're hoping to get maybe like the Barry off the checklist, some of the other guys off the checklist. But again, these are guys that you can buy, not a ton of investment. Maybe you buy like 1 or 2 of those if they're a little bit more expensive. And then one final one here. If you want a quarterback, Davis Mills. The reason I say I don't know much about the guy. This is kind of a blind guess right here, but I'm basing it on opportunity. Deshaun Watson is being investigated legally. Therefore, the NFL cannot impose any type of consequences on him until this is discovered. They can't they are not allowed to it. But the Texans are really leery of letting him play. He is buried 4th on the depth chart. Tyrod Taylor's the guy there right now. Love me some Tyrod, but who knows if their season's starting to look like crap because they don't have a lot of talent there. Maybe Davis Mills goes in there and we see someone that we're like, oh, damn, I said before, these guys that get into the NFL, they're all studs. They were the best player on their high school team, college team. They're buried on depth charts without opportunities sometimes in the NFL. The right coach, the right situation, any of these guys can pop. His cards, his pen pal in his Texans uniform, $24.99 on card autograph out of Elite. I mean, his Elements out of 25 on card, Elements neon side, $67. So you're getting really quality. That's NFL uniform stuff for him. His gold ink, Pen Pal's gold ink, I believe that's the first off the line, $45. I mean, why not grab one or two of those? It doesn't hurt to take a shot on that. The worst case scenario is he flops and you sell it for $30 in a year, because people are still willing to take a shot on a 2021 rookie. Here's the guys you missed. Stop buying Mac Jones. Stop buying Trey Lance. It's too late. If you feel like but Mac Jones' price are marveling that of Trevor Lawrence. Do I think he could be awesome? Absolutely. But you're paying for him that he's going to be awesome already. You're already paying that price. He has to be really, really, really awesome for you to maybe add a 10% marginal difference on top. We're not talking 10 times your investment. We're talking if you buy a card for 100, maybe if he comes in and plays, you sell it for $110. That's just a scale to tell you what I mean. Obviously, that's not what's going to happen. His cards are going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So in reality, you buy one for $800 and he does really well. Maybe you get lucky and sell it for $900. It's going to take a lot for you to get your money back on that. There's where you buy into a break and hope you hit one. Those are the teams you should be buying in breaks, and pray you hit a Mac Jones short print or something like that, because you're going to pay up for it. Real quick, one last note. Wait to buy on these guys for a couple days, not too long, for a couple weeks. Drew Lock. Bridgewater starts to go down just a little bit. He comes out and doesn't look as sharp as you think. See what Bridgewater does. Don't wait to buy Lock until they name him the starter. His prices were going up, and now his prices are starting to trickle back down because they named Bridgewater the starter. But if Bridgewater comes out and looks sharp, it's okay. You don't need to buy him. But if he doesn't look like the Broncos want him to, it's just a matter of time before Drew Lock gets in. ETN, wait until James Robinson tears up. It's a long season. Find those, watch auctions of ETN. See where you maybe sneak one late night in for you got a really nice quality card, on-card ink of ETN for $45. Snag it then, put it away in your organized box where your ETN cards go. Wait till next year, see what happens. And then finally, Jameis Winston. I don't know what his cards are doing now. I pulled some up, but I mean, here's a guy who could have a resurgence in now the 24th before, we thought he was going to be the next dude maybe in New Orleans. His black gold out of 25, gold ink on card, super gorgeous card, sold for $199.99, $200. That could be a $500 card if he comes out, $600 card or more. So pay attention to him. I'm saying monitor the market on him. There may be opportunities. We may have missed it. I don't know on him. But these are all football takes. Call me out if I'm wrong. But if I make you some money, give me a pat on the back. Let me know, hey, he's not as bad as I think he is.
Man, I'm still taking note. That was a lot of really awesome information in there. One of the things I wanted to reiterate that I especially think is so key is if you want to marginalize your risk on some of these higher name players right now, to your point, the Trevor Lawrences and the Mac Joneses and the Justin Fields, buy them in a break. That's the best way to minimize your risk, not have to pay a huge sum out of pocket and still get an opportunity to make a killing if you hit the right card. So I love that point. All the other things you're talking about are really spot on. As you can tell, our voice level and our excitement starts to steadily increase as we get into the conversation with cards and then football and all of it together. So awesome points. There's nothing really I can add to what you've said. I think everything you've said is spot on.
I do want to echo to what you just said. It's a great point. It's always a risk when you buy a card, but to buy the New England Patriots for $200 in a half case break, maybe you don't hit, but that to me is just as much risk as going out and buying an $800 Mac Jones rookie card right now that could easily drop down to $150 if he doesn't play, or $200 if he doesn't play for 2 years. So again, there's risks on either side. You just have to, do some risk analysis of your own. What are you comfortable with? Because when you buy into a break, you're not just getting Mac Jones. You're getting all the guys. You're getting Ramondre Stevenson, who could be another breakout guy you might want to buy, who just got moved up a level on the draft. There are so many guys. So more than just taking these guys, do this on your own. Go look at who the sleepers are, the breakout candidates for this year. Not just rookies, but maybe the last 3 or 4 years. Corey Davis was one that popped on. I don't want to go into too many more, but he's with the Jets now. His cards from 2017 can be found fairly cheap. So just go do your research. Treat it almost like fantasy, and it can be fun. You don't have to break the bank. It's a lot more fun to speculate when you're not spending $800. Take that $500, $800 you would have bought one card with, spread it out over a few. All you need is half those to hit to make more than you would have off that one card.
Spot on. Good stuff. Awesome content. Awesome show. I think there's a lot to take away. Again, always interested to hear what you, the listener, has to say. So please hit us up on Instagram or on the Facebook page and give us your thoughts on the show, feedback, things like that. We do have a little bit of teaser I want to throw out there, some exciting stuff coming up on some future episodes. We do have Jason. He is one of the founders of a company called Gem Mint. What they do specifically is they bring breaking tools that connect breakers and buyers. So things like randomizers, and you've seen random.org, things of that nature they're working on. So it's going to be a really cool opportunity to speak with him about some of the things that they envision helping out to grow this industry. And then Tyler, owner, founder of HGA, will be coming on. That's going to be a great time. We're going to, we're not going to shy away. We're going to hit him with some hard hitting questions and really dig deep into, his thoughts on the future of the hobby and his take on where things sit now. So really good stuff to look forward to. Awesome show, awesome content. Mike, as always, appreciate you doing what you do and bringing, such vast knowledge to the show. So appreciate you and hope that everybody out there has a really great weekend.
Yeah, man, Chris, thanks for making sure we've done this. What is this, our 4th in a row? Maybe
4 in a row, man. It's getting scary. It's starting to become a trend.
Yep. Hey, let us know what you want to hear. We're all up for topics. Let us know if you have any questions you want us to address. We love hearing from you. Tell your friends about this. Please get us out there. We want this to be big for the season. We'll be doing some seasonal giveaways and stuff like that. So again, Chris, thanks for your time. Thank you to those who listened. We love y'all. Hope you have a great week. See you next Friday.